Alright, I'm live somewhere. Wow, that was record time. I mean, recordly slow. 36 seconds before I saw anybody in there. Man. Hello to Pete's 811 Merry Meets Birch. I would like to start the show by thanking the folk at Freedom Lampworks for our new pipe. They noticed us having to poke our pipe too many times on air and decided that we needed a new pipe. And they were right. We always need a new pipe. And it's a good pipe. Now, as you probably know, because you're on my channel, and I don't know why you would get a notification. Hello, Caleb. Why you would get a notification, because I didn't announce it, and nobody knew I was going on the air, so I always assume if you're here, you probably know who I am. Elegantly yours. Hello. I'm Uncle Birch. I teach witchcraft for a living. I've been teaching witchcraft for a very long time, and in recent decades, it became my full-time job. And when you got a full-time job, you know, you gotta do more work to make more. Hello, Leela. So I'm on this kind of teaching frenzy. I stopped teaching my correspondence course, my year-in-a-day course. I used to do it through YouTube right here on a private channel that you can't see unless I give you the code. It's a very low-tech way of doing it. I'm doing it through gumroad.com now. For one reason, they automatically bill my students and I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. I'm willing to pay them a percentage to deal with that kind of crap just so I can just teach witchcraft, because that's what I'm good at. So I took about 2 years off from that because I kept hearing from all these millennial witches, and they talking about binge watching me. You know, on the channel, like people that would binge watch every video on my channel. There's like hundreds of that, but that's what you're into these days. You got to give the people what they want. You don't dictate the market. The market dictates your actions. So I started moving all of my year-in-a-day courses into downloadable formats, where you can just download them, watch them all, you know, in a few days or something. And then also split my year-in-a-day course into two halves to make it more affordable. And then I packaged my year-in-a-day and my advanced courses, still at a reduced rate, but all these different ways for people to just be able to download them, own them forever, and watch them whenever the hell they want. But then people kept clamoring for a full year-in-a-day course. There is still people out there wanting to spend a whole year of their lives studying witchcraft, sacrificing a whole lot. Your ancestors gave up a lot more than that, but just a lot of people apparently, no end to the people that still want to do it that old-fashioned way, want to have all the interaction as they go. They're not in a hurry. So I got some for the kids that are in a hurry, and for the kids that, you know, want to take their time like their ancestors did. So I kept starting the year-in-a-day courses, and they kept getting full, and I kept having more people asking about them. So at this point, I've got 3 running simultaneously, and I will have a new year-in-a-day course starting November 1st. I'll make an announcement here when the class actually opens. All these hosted at gumroad.com/WitchSkewl, WitchSkewl. I have a lot of courses out in a day right now, because you'll be joining the wrong course. Hello, Sasha. That's how my kid used to say his name. His name is Sasha. Let's see. All right, so yeah, that WitchSkewl, WitchSkewl. I have all kinds of singular courses in different things: spiritual warfare, magical warfare, tarot, more courses going to be coming up on that. You know, single ones. You just, you know, you want to study one thing, you pay it, you download it, you watch it, or you can stream too. I think if you stream it, you've got like 72 hours to pull it off. So make sure you got the time if you pay for streaming. So November 1st, I'm going to have another course. So I not only teaching witchcraft full time, it's like double time. I'm going to be teaching some goddamn witchcraft's going to make my head spin. So I jump out here and I teach more witchcraft and make my head spin randomly. Several different Facebook channels, pages, on my YouTube channel, on several of my Facebook pages. You never know where I'm going to be. Uncle Birch is here, he's there, he's everywhere, he's teaching witchcraft. He's teaching it for pay and he's teaching it for free. This thing that I do here helps me by keeping my teaching muscle strong and hopefully helps the community, giving them some actual witchcraft teachings so somebody knows what the fuck they're talking about. Hello, Sonny. The deeper I go down the rabbit hole of new witch pages on Facebook, the more bullshit I'm seeing kids feed each other. The more disinformation I see repeated over and over and over again. And you know, people that know need to step up. It's not going to happen on my watch. I've seen so much witchcraft lost just through the period of Wicca. Not going to happen anymore. I'm going to keep the old ways remembered, and I hope other people do. Because the kids out there, they want to learn the old ways. They don't want to learn the ways of somebody that just started studying last week. So we play this little game. If you haven't played it before, any type of magic, witchcraft, Wicca, ceremonial magic, you know, wait for the ghetto bird to go by. Voodoo, conjure, other things. Even if it's something you don't know that I practice, and I don't know that I practice, go ahead, give it a shot. Go ahead and ask me about it. More than likely have something to say about it. More than likely, more than you bargained for. More than likely, you're going to get more than your money's worth. So, we have a couple rules. Please try not to ask me a question when I'm answering a question, because you'll probably have to paste it several times after I miss it. See, I already got a question up there. What's good offering to give to spirits and how? You know, spirits and gods, one thing I've seen that they all have in common, they all tend to want the same stuff. They want alcohol, tobacco, and candy. Quite often chocolate, and definitely dark chocolate for all the goddesses. They want dark chocolate, they want roses, they want red wine. Okay, just that's going to work. But depending on spirits, ancestors, that kind of stuff. If you know anything about your ancestors, you know what was, you know, the favored drink of that region. Like, you know, the Irish, they're going to want some Irish whiskey. You know, Caribbean folk going to want some rum. Southern, not as cheap as Southern Comfort. I don't even really know if it's cheap because I don't drink that. But there's going to be a favorite alcohol of that region. It might be wine. For a lot of, for heathens, it's most likely going to be mead. 9 times out of 10. You know, while I have plenty of that blood, I'm not specifically heathen, but mead's some good shit. You know, I definitely, as a kid, grew up drinking cheap-ass beer and shit, but I wasn't much of a drinker until I discovered mead. Then I learned how to make mead. I haven't done it in decades. Not that hard to do, but it's like basically a honey wine. But so heathens, your ancestors, and probably your gods and goddesses, they're going to want mead more than any other thing. We're off to a great start. How do I find the right crossroads? Most things that I can think of that you're going to want to do at a crossroads, any crossroads will do, but a crossroads that you don't normally frequent, you know, it's not the one you pass by every day on your way to work. A lot of times you're going to be disposing of shit at the crossroads. It's not pretty shit. You don't want to go around those energies. But crossroads. Is a crossroads three-way crossroads is more potent than a four-way crossroads? Uh, maybe there are places with five-way crossroads, or I mean, I don't know. I guess the other would be a two-way crossroads, and then three roads would be a three-way crossroads.
Two-way crossroads. Wouldn't that be a one-way crossroads?
Two crossroads. I'm thinking like two roads that cross.
Oh,
But
that's more of a four-way crossroads.
Well, that's what I said. I first said four-way, and then I corrected myself. Yeah, it's four-way.
It's a four-way.
But then if you got,
Two streets. This is a
Yeah.
four-way.
yeah, so when you got this,
Yeah, it's a four-way.
but then you've got another one going diagonally
That might
through.
be like
That's a
5 or 6-way.
Would that be a
Depending
six-way
on how many,
so one of those.
This is a four-way,
Yeah.
and this is a two-way.
Yeah. So pretty much like the more roads that cross, the better it seems. So I don't know. Maybe there's places you got 5 roads crossing, or maybe we've already established 5 roads crossing. I'm confusing myself at this point, but a crossroads is a crossroads. And one of the things I always like to bring up about this thing, because people want to talk about cultural appropriation a lot, and I've seen people being called out, white people called out for doing things at crossroads because they're not African, and that's something that a lot of African traditions do. Well, Hecate, ancient Greece, bitches. Everything was at a crossroads, okay? Her most sacred spot was a crossroads. You called Hecate at the fucking crossroads. Her temple, for lack of a temple, was always at the crossroads. Nobody owns the fucking crossroads. I see people, do shit like this. Like, people argue about braids in hair tightly together all the way across. Now, maybe cornrows specifically can be traced back to Africa, but something almost as small as cornrows was practiced by Viking women and was practiced by Celtic women. Braids are common upon the entire landscape, and there's an entire witchcraft of braids. Braiding hair, braiding things, all kinds of things for braids. And then somebody want to come across later, shout cultural appropriation. I wasn't even going to talk about this right here, but I already went there. But then there's, fucking dreadlocks. Dreadlocks is what happens when you don't fucking comb or wash your fucking hair for a certain amount of time. And it didn't just happen to people in Jamaica and African cultures. The pirates were known for fucking dreadlocks. They didn't wash their hair, and they were out at sea. They got that sea air in their hair all the fucking time. They had fucking dreadlocks. Dreadlocks not a fucking cultural thing. Braids aren't a fucking cultural thing. Crossroads are not a fucking cultural thing. They're cross-cultural things, and that's not a bad thing. The idea that lots of cultures came up with similar magical ideas is not a bad thing. Unless you think it somehow takes away from the legitimacy of your traditions. If you are that kind of person, well, you're the reason they use the word snowflake. You're that fucking bent out of shape and insecure about your traditions. I ain't insecure about fucking none of mine. I know where all they fucking came from. I know what they went through to get to me. And I know how they mixed together nicely in a fucking melting pot and become my witchcraft. Saw a question, and I was trying not to look. Hey, Uncle Birch, I know you work with Hecate. I've seen you speak a few videos. I'd love to hear some. Okay, well, great. I subconsciously... my subconscious mind apparently read your question, and I was subconsciously answering your question just now. While I thought I was off track on a random fucking tangent, which has been known to happen, I guess I wasn't. So there you go, Tay. The little caution diamond sign that we see on streets, the street sign indicating that a crossroads is coming up. I used to use that as a Hecate sigil. I should probably throw that out there again, because I'm sure nobody else did that, but that, the diamond seems to make sense too, because of the combination of triangles that a diamond needs to have, and Hecate being, of course, one of those goddesses that is more triangular than most. made sense to me as a Hecate sigil. And then every time I see a crossroads sign and gaze upon it, I'm giving energy to the Hecate sigil. All right, we have another. I thought I saw there might be another question. I've heard Moses had keys similar to Solomon. Do you know anything about that? I don't specifically, but I think Solomon was David's son. It was David Solomon's son. Do you know? Part Jew
What?
woman to my right. Was
I'm
Dave
listening to you.
was was David Solomon's son? Was Solomon David's son?
David was Solomon's.
Okay, because Solomon was older. So yeah,
And I already answered that once before on here.
maybe that's why it's so fit to ask you again.
Yeah.
I
David
clearly
David
forgot.
is the son.
Okay, David is the son. So the Star of David was actually the Star of Solomon before the Star of David. Solomon came up with it. The pentagram was from Solomon too. It would make sense that Solomon didn't just pull all this shit out of his ass. A lot of this stuff was based on existing theories within Kabbalah, even though Solomon would have been one of the originators of Kabbalah. Those ideas, I'm sure, had been floating around for some time before people had the ability to, write them down. So, while I don't know about that, I just hatched a really interesting theory out of my asshole. What spells do you do in a circle, and what spells do you do without a circle? Do your offerings in a circle? I do my offerings outside of a circle. I've always been trying to really wrap my head around something specific for that. Because like hoodoo and conjure and other folk magics, they'll be doing these magics and they're doing them outside of a circle, but some of the laws of magic, the laws of sympathetic magic are not as simplistic as most people state. Most people state it like attracts like. But that's not the whole law. The whole law was actually on the spiritual plane, like attracts like. But on the physical plane, opposites attract. This may make sense with some of the relationships you end up in here on Earth. So, based on that, I have been trying to wrap my head around the idea of doing magics that are outside the circle, that are symbolically opposite to what I want to achieve. I have done some experimentation, but I don't really recall specific results for that. But I just kind of have some theories, like, is there a form of magic where we do the opposite symbolically of what we want to achieve on a physical plane outside of a circle? It's a theory. It's not quite a theory. It's something I'm kind of mulling over. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that means and how that applies. That maybe you can try some of that shit out. Don't do it on really important stuff, but try some stuff out. But the folk magics that I know of that don't utilize a circle are not doing the opposite of what they want to achieve. I read that the keys of Solomon weren't written by King Solomon, the Bible, but a different Solomon. Can you clear this up? Probably that's wrong. The Solomon you hear about in the Bible was called Solomon the Wise Man. And we're all told the story of the two women both claiming to be the mother of the baby. And Solomon says, okay, well, I'm going to cut the baby in half, and you can each have a half of the baby, knowing that the actual mother of the baby would rather her son survive, even if it wasn't with her. Or rather, her baby survive, even if it wasn't with her. And Solomon, in his great wisdom, knew that the true mother would show her colors by that. That's a story that we're told. I don't know if that's true or anything. But the fact that they used the word wise man and then had a story to try and establish his wisdom tells me a lot. Because in biblical speak, wise meant witch, wizard, warlock, higher level ceremonial magician. The three wise men were three mystics from the east. It's a code word that means us. So that Solomon in the Bible being branded with the name Solomon, the wise man, shows me that it's that Solomon we're talking about. And it would be that period of their. It would be that period they would derive that from. So Solomon was around, and from Solomon we get so many things. From Solomon we get the Masons. The Masons were literally stone masons, brick cutters and shit. That's why they, the compass, all that imagery in their religion. And they were, I think, renovating or excavating the basement of Solomon's temple.
Did they bring the Goetia?
Yeah, yeah. And then, so the lesser key of Solomon was the Goetia too. But they found something. They unearthed something in Solomon's temple which changed the Masons into a mystical order. Everything changes about the Masons from that point. Before that, they were like a union of fucking stone cutters and bricklayers and shit. It's all it was. Now they're like mystical bricklayers and shit. They found something. What's up, you crazy some bitch? Teach on. Okay, Joseph. Hello, Joseph. And hello, Paul. I've got a bunch of people saying hello. Hi, Paul. Oh, Paul's from the August 1st class, and Jamie is one of your fellow classmates, so hopefully you know each other. We have, for the class, there is a WitchSkewl page just for people in the year and a day courses. I've accepted people that have done my downloadable year and a day courses just because some students just kind of started that page, and I interact occasionally on that page, but I watch all the time and everything that goes on, everything I see, and I see my students teaching my students. Now, while I may rail against, students on noob pages teaching other students, not my students. Even my students on noob pages teaching other students, we've got a couple weeks in, more than the majority of the witches you're going to come across out there on the my students kick ass, even the least studious of my students. So I've got my students on this Facebook page teaching each other, and they have topic going. They're just doing a really good job. So we keep that page going. Everybody can meet each other and stuff. Joe Roop, Lighting the Void, one of the more professional podcasts I've been on. I was on another one recently. Pretty much he was talking about my cop stuff, and that I happen to be a witch. I forgot what the name of that podcast is, but that one was really well done. Way more professionally done than my own podcast, I must say. But hello, Joe. Any input on the Kabbalah Tree of Life? Well, I learned that within the Kabbalah Tree of Life, certain passages, certain patterns that we take, it's kind of initiatory. These patterns these paths that we take on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. And I was taught that that's patterns that we take upon the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is where the pentagram comes. There's a pentagram pattern. There's a hexagram pattern within that. And taking that pattern along the Tree of Life is rather important. I am not specifically a Kabbalist, but I do, borrow things here and there, like most witches, from them. I have that much understanding, and I do understand how the tarot cards can correspond to points on, or at least the major arcana corresponded to points on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. So we're doing Ask Uncle Birch. I'm getting pumped up for my November 1st year and a day WitchSkewl course, where I teach all things witchcraft. Oh my goodness. So we're doing this Ask Uncle Birch, and what is the difference between Palo and ceremonial magic? Oh, huge. Well, Palo comes from traditions that did not have books, and as such, don't write books mostly. And ceremonial magic comes from traditions that are mostly books. People that studied, people that were able to write things down for thousands of years, and not have the works burned by the church, not have their people persecuted much by the church at all. The reason witches borrow so much ceremonial magic is because so much ceremonial magic remains intact to this day, and most witchcraft does not. Palo, very earth-based tradition with its roots in Africa, but really is not Palo until it gets to Cuba. It's an Afro-Cuban religion. So within Palo, we see reflections of other African religions, like the Orishas. In Palo, they have a similar thing for every single Orisha, with a different name, but pretty similar attributes, pretty similar likes, dislikes, pretty similar rituals. Different songs to sing to them is one of the only variations of it. Just try it. I'm not using any of your bandwidth, so you should be good. I specifically am not using my bandwidth because my kid's on the Xbox. So, Palo, very primitive, down in the dirt, done on the floor. Ceremonial magic, very upper class people practicing most of it elevated from the floor. They have, tables and temples and shrines and things. So those two are very different, I guess. Well, yo, you must have heard me say this to ask the question, what works faster for you? And I have said, since being involved in both, I do not teach Palo. There's no Palo in my classes. If I've got a couple months to wait for the thing, I'll do witchcraft, classic witchcraft with the moon, and I'll wait for the lunar cycles to bring it. If I need it tomorrow, I'm gonna step over into the corner there and do me some Palo. And with Palo, I've always seen a very drastic response in a very short amount of time that was clearly a response to my work. While potency may be arguable, because within Palo you've got like trickster deities, and like while the work worked, there's a trick in the work. that maybe the work won't turn out to be so cool as it seemed to be before, but because of that little trickster spirit that you have to go through for everything else. But we have those trickster spirits in classical witchcraft too. Okay, I'm sure that's going to be good. Hello from the Caribbean. See, now their ancestors probably went Rome. I'm just guessing. Have you ever worked with angelic forces? Yeah. I mean, you can't do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram without at least the archangels. So yeah, I've got a pretty good relationship with the archangels. I would take a more ceremonial view of angels rather than the New Age view of our fluffy little friends here to help us. Where we see angels most is in the Bible, and I don't know where anybody gets that impression. They're the thugs of God, and they're there to fuck you up and turn you into a fucking pillar of salt, and you don't get to tell them what to do. Jehovah does. So I don't know where everybody's picking up that fluffy bullshit. I came here from Mind and Magic. Oh, well, definitely one of my bros. Frederick Xavier is some serious shit. Frederick Xavier is probably, he's where I got the idea to start doing stuff on Gumroad. God, am I thankful for that. And Frater, he works hard. He's always putting out new material. You gotta subscribe to Mind and Magic because he has like deals. Like there was a time, it's like a month ago or so. It was like everything was free for a day. All of Frederick Xavier's lessons free for a day. I wouldn't do that even for you for Christmas. I may do a sale here and there, but usually don't. He does a lot. He's more on it than that kind of thing. Oh my God, Marta's gonna have a bunch of stuff to tell me apparently.
This is like unbelievable.
Which stuff or Trump stuff? Oh, Trump stuff. Oh, it's always unbelievable. Made it. Hi, Uncle Birch. Hello, Lady Witch. Difference between talismans and sigils. Drastically. Talismans tend to be physical objects that we're going to keep around for a while. I'm getting a thumbs up over here from, somebody who was once my student. So I know she's very studious, so she's got to be right. Yeah, talisman's going to stick around for a while. We're going to wear it all the time. We're going to try. We're never probably going to destroy the talisman. But most times with the sigil, unless we're doing to hide a sigil in plain sight or something to that effect, we're eventually going to destroy the sigil to release the sigil and cause nature abhorring a vacuum to move to fill the void where the sigil used to be. And you can go and watch a bunch of my videos, but I'm sure I make that a lot clearer than that simplistic version that I just spewed out. We're doing Ask Uncle Birch. I'm getting ready for November 1st, where I'm going to have another year and a day course in witchcraft starting, and I'm going to have 4 going simultaneously. So I'm on this teaching frenzy, and I keep my teaching muscle strong by doing this kind of thing, and I do this as a community service to keep some real teaching out there in the magical spectrum. If you want to sign up, you can do it 2 ways. There are 2 paths you can go by, but there's always time to change the road you're on. You can wait till October 31st, somewhere around midnight, when I post the class to gumroad.com/WitchSkewl, which is of course WitchSkewl. At that time, there will be a limited number of slots. I don't even know how many slots, but that class can and usually does fill up. You can take your chances and wait till the Wuji time to sign up for the class, or you can contact me ahead of time at witchskewl@gmail.com. WitchSkewl at gmail.com. And if you contact me ahead of time, I can secure an unlimited amount of slots, and you'll be in. And then, November 1st, you got to go over there and click on the thing to start it on up. But I can secure your spot based on your email. You'll all be good. You'll all be good. Trump seems to be facing some of the magic thrown at him. LOL. Well, Sonny, I'm sure I'm going to start a bunch of shit, but you know me, I start shit. I have no problem with that. Absolutely. I think a lot of inexperienced witches and people that know nothing about witchcraft called those things a failure, even though they were badly done and done all over the place. But there were so many witches doing so many things that even David Griffin couldn't stop them all by absorbing them into his house. If you're waiting for it, it will take longer. If you're holding on to it, it will take longer. It wasn't until enough...
If you're thinking about it all the time.
If you're thinking about it all the time. It wasn't until enough people said, that shit didn't work, that shit started to work. And one thing Uncle Birch always says, walks back.
He said, the media twisted it all around. To be clear, there was no print.
Oh.
Yeah.
The media twisted around live video.
Yes.
God, they always do that. Didn't say what we heard him say.
Once again, the media has decided to misconstrue my comments to advance a biased and political witch hunt against Trump.
Well, we have a news show every day at 11 a.m. on Spreaker.com/user/Witterchin. You can see the rebroadcast here, but these are some of the stories we'll be covering. The news department over here with Marta, they're always working. We just need to, in the morning, we need to remember some of the crazy shit we heard tonight, because by morning there's going to be such crazy shit, we're going to lose track. The old crazy shit. Yeah, and over the weekend we really lose track of some crazy fucking shit, but we cover that shit. So yeah, one of the things that Uncle Birch will always say, and you can quote me because I'm the one that said it first, when magic arrives, it will be on the wings of irony. Quote me on that. And just watch, try and figure out what I meant by that, because you're going to have countless examples. And what's happening here? Irony. Irony, irony, irony. And we'll talk about that on other shows and shit. Let's see. Is there such a thing as working too many sigils at one time? I don't think so, because having more magics going at the same time helps you release the other magics. You're concentrating on this now. You're not obsessing over that one. What's my first lesson in the magical art of war? Well, I've got I think they're in order. Yeah, I forget. I think it's feeding on your enemies, and that's spiritual warfare. The magical art of war is a standalone from my Hexfest videos or portions of that lecture. I called it magical warfare. I'm probably going to change it. I'm not going to call it spiritual warfare anymore. I'm going to go magical warfare because that will coincide with my book better than other shit. But I'm not going to talk about that. So we're doing Ask Uncle Birch. It helps me and it helps you because one of the oldest of the magical laws, the left hand. For everything that is taken, the right hand, something must be given. The law of exchange. For everything is taken, something must be given. So I'm taking your questions to help me be a better teacher. I'm giving you the answers to your questions to hopefully have some better teachings out there on the internet. And as my community service, I did at least 20 years of my pro bono teaching witchcraft before I ever charged a fucking dime for a class. So now I charge. But I also do my community service work. So you can ask about almost any kind of magic. Try not to be too long-winded and try not to ask me a question when I'm answering the question. They're just chomping at the bit over this news. I can tell. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, he was on camera
Yeah.
like an hour ago.
Well, how many times have we...
He got busted.
Yeah.
And now he's like, let me make it clear. I never said quid pro quo. And the media's twisting everything around. Like,
Oh. Yeah. Well, it's right out of Trump's playbook, you know. We saw you say it on TV, now deny it, you said it. What are those pink flowers? The ones on your left. Well, okay. I thought this was backwards. Maybe this is backwards on Facebook? Maybe it's not backwards. Okay, those? What are those, huh? I forget what they're called.
It's called Rio flowers, R-I-O.
Rio flowers.
I'm sure they have like some scientific name.
They're constantly blooming.
We've got the red ones on the back, the
Yeah,
pink
red.
ones shown, and they also come in white, which we don't have.
Got red, pink, and they also come in white. But, yeah. Constant blooming. Because some shit, like the gardenia over there, hasn't bloomed
In over
in
a
a
year,
year. Just found one bud, and we're all excited.
possibly 2 or 3.
Yeah. Possibly 2 or 3, and now we're all excited. Because it smells really good when it finally fucking buds. But, so, wifey needed more flowers that will bloom while waiting for that crap. And ones that won't bloom facing the wall. That really irritates her too.
And blue facing the wall.
Yeah, like these guys back here.
The hibiscus?
Yeah.
The hibiscus blooms every day.
No, but some of them bloom where you can't see them, and you have to turn the pot. Yeah. I stir the pot, she turns the pot. All right. So I'm sure I probably missed some questions, but I'm watching, waiting. Your thoughts on blood magic? I don't know. There's lots of blood magic. You know, there's blood sacrifice magic. I have been involved in that kind of stuff too. Not my favorite thing, but using your blood for magic, absolutely. Just saw somebody that used my how to get a home video here on YouTube, and you know, they were all excited. It was like a miracle. They were the 33rd person on the list or something like that. They got the house. You know, that's probably one of the most successful spells I have, is that lodestone trick. Putting 3 drops of your blood on a lodestone and planting it in, you know, near the doorstep of the property that you want to occupy. Is it ripe?
It fell off.
It fell off. So that's
It's a little
ripe
bit
enough.
green, but
Probably just has to sit a couple days.
Yeah.
All right, we got lemons. We're gonna make. Well, we probably can't make much lemonade off that one lemon, but
You can use it for a tequila chaser.
a tequila chaser. All right. See, Marta's an optimist.
I'm resourceful.
Okay. Oh, so, but the thing is with that one, I always teach my students. thing that I came up with the lodestone and 3 drops of your blood on it, some of the reasoning behind that is the iron content of blood. And those spells are more potent if you take an iron supplement the day before you extract your blood. But then, women that have menstrual blood's got a buttload of iron in it. So that's great for that kind of thing. But that thing is not just for attracting houses. You got to look outside the box. Think outside the box. A lodestone's an attraction instrument. It's a magnet that has no polarity. It has no side that pushes away. It only draws in. We're using our blood to draw things in. There's countless applications. I just did it in a housing spell that's really fucking successful. I spoke about honoring and working with ancestors. How can ancestors help us in our lives? Well, your ancestors have experienced all the things that happened on Earth that led to where you are now. Ancestors have history. They know how things came about. Knowing a thing requires knowing how the thing came to be. Your ancestors have encoded this in your DNA. This information is stored in your DNA. Science has now proven, like an Uber hard drive from hell. Matter of fact, they're trying to figure out how to store regular data on a piece of DNA because it has so much fucking storage space. Your ancestors can have a great effect on your lives. And even, as ethereal beings, they can affect your luck. They can affect your experience. But their wisdom, the stuff that they went through, that is the stuff you're living now. In a different version than when they went through it. They have the knowledge of the origins of that stuff. So those things, I think, are pretty important. How do you usually spend sound besides bringing in new students? Well, first, there's the trick-or-treating. We have to take the kid trick-or-treating. Don't not let your kids have trick-or-treat. Don't not let them have presents at Christmas, or they sure in the fuck won't follow your beliefs. They'll become Orthodox or something like that, and have more holidays. So there's that. Usually I spend time with family and I leave a lot of offerings around. There's stuff up here on the deck that I'm going to need to leave offerings to. We'll probably have a little table for our ancestors where we'll leave other offerings down in the house.
Good time for tarot readings.
Good time for tarot readings, psychic reading, divination, scrying, all of that thing. So probably do a lot of that. I always end up getting more readings around that time. And there was even the time I'm not sure if I talked about it on this case of Romani that were customers of mine, and they one time wanted me to come to their house on Samhain. I didn't even know Samhain was a thing in the Romani culture, but clearly it was. They wanted me to come to their house and do tarot readings all over the house for this party that they were having. I went, oh no, yeah, it's like family time, religious time. I had a bunch of students and initiates and stuff. I probably had to lead the ritual or at least be at the ritual. Lots of stuff going on. Every time I hesitated, they threw down another 100. And pretty soon I'm looking at rent for 2 months sitting in front of me. They're just like, I kept driving the hard bargain, and they drew everybody's got their price. So eventually, I called my wife up and told me how much money I was looking at, and apparently, I was informed by my wife that was my price, and that I should go do that. And I had received permission from the wife to go be gone on Samhain. That's fucking huge.
I got to invite my boyfriend over.
Yeah, she got it. Yeah, there you go. And it was, and I worked this house. I went, there's one room mostly old people, there's another room mostly middle-aged people, and then eventually I got to the kitchen table with the young girls, and The young girls were like 11 and 12 and shit. And, it was then that it occurred to me that every person that I had read for in this house was a reader, a professional reader. These people had, they owned psychic shops all over town. And they were like they had like psychic shop wars with the other Romani families and shit. It was, I had no idea that these cultures existed. It was like, we lived in Santa Cruz. It was very fucking white. It was like the town next to Santa Cruz, which you guys had this whole Romani thing going on in it. And so it wasn't until I was reading for the young girls that I realized that everybody in that house was a reader. Everybody in that house read tarot. They all knew their shit, but they hired me. And I always remember that part because there's one girl, she's like 11 years old, almost 12, and she's asking about her future husband. And I'm shuffling the cards. I go, I don't know if you really need to worry about that right now. You're so young. Your husband that's so far off. She says, no, we're arranged for 12 years old. So I already know who my husband's going to be. And we'll be arranged at 12 years. I didn't even know that existed. They're marrying 12-year-olds off in California. Arranged. I had no idea that existed. I really was exposed to a whole culture that I knew nothing about. And their culture was based on psychic readings they all read. So that's what they were doing on Samhain. Having somebody come read for them. So absolutely, that's the kind of thing you want to do. Lots of psychic readings, lots of tarot readings, divination. I haven't really looked. I know the moon was just full. Are we going to have like a new moon for Samhain? God, I need to look that up.
Want me to look at it?
Yeah, if you could. It seems around that time, but I remember the last time we had a new moon for Samhain, it was a big deal. I think there was actually a dark moon. Yeah, I don't know. Might be around that time. Anyway, let's see if I missed any questions here.
The new moon is on October 27th.
Okay, 27th. Damn close. For brick dust. Brick dust usually for laying boundaries and barriers. Most often used in protection. Most commonly a line or a circle around a house. That's commonly done. Some people will do inside. They'll go across the windowsill, the doorway under the mat, any entrance points, just kind of like a little wall. Just a line. But most commonly, I've seen it done in a circle. So you need a lot of brick dust, depending on how big your pad is, I guess. All right, so we're doing Ask Uncle Birch. We'll do a few more, and then I gotta go do other things. I've been using items for a wand and a thame. They're all made of the raw materials: plastic, resin, some steel. But each is significant in a way. Personally, am I doing myself a disservice? Okay, all right. Two questions. I thought it was the same person with a continuation, but those are two different people. Plastic's a problem. Okay. Magic follows similar laws to electricity. So I've been able to use my knowledge of electronics in chaos magic to formulate some pretty incredible stuff. My configuration of the wand, which is my first video on YouTube, probably almost 10 years old. You go back on my channel here, you can see that. Is a configuration I came up with. I saw a lot of people wrapping their wands in wire, different wire. Now, my wand, I was taught to have crystal at the tip and a lodestone at the bottom. The lodestone pulling the energy towards the crystal cleansing the energy before it goes out the tip of the wand. So I developed a circuit with two transformers. A transformer is tightly coiled wire at different points. So tightly coiled wire here, then spiraling along the lawn, and then tightly coiled here, transforms the energy going through it. So I was using electronics to do this. Now, how we use electronics or how we use plastic in electronics is as an insulator. It stops power from flowing through it. It doesn't let power flow through it. So plastic's not good. You don't want to stuff in plastic bags, all that stuff. No plastic. Steel's not bad. There's some people that, their spirits are seemingly offended by steel. In some of those traditions, those same spirits are offended by salt, because both of those things can be used as weapons against spirits. Now I say, if the spirit's that worried about it, I probably don't want to work with that spirit. It's like these ethereal forms, spirits, demons, stuff like that we're calling up, they hold all the cards. Why can't I have a weapon or two? Why are you worried about me having a weapon or two? But I'm not supposed to be worried about you, trying to consume my soul or possess me or something like that. Yeah. I disagree with that whole thing. That's the only reason I've ever heard not to use steel and iron. Most athames are going to be steel. Most. Yes, dandelion tea does help with psychic powers, and there's a lot of data now that dandelion root, dandelion tea root, even dandelion root extract is being shown to cure cancer. So hey, get some psychic powers, and maybe if you have some cancers you didn't know about, maybe you can treat that. Any oils or powders you think are forgotten about nowadays? I think there's such a resurgence in powders and that kind of thing, with hoodoo and conjure becoming more prominent. There were some that were less prominent for a while, almost forgotten, that seem to have made major comebacks. So I'm just not sure if I know of any that are really forgotten now. Yeah, not thinking of anything right now. Still want Abre Camino seeds, or is your plant producing? I got a student that's growing Abre Camino indoors under controlled conditions, unless that's you, and theirs went to seed. So hopefully they're saving some seeds. But the picture that they showed me in the description of the seeds, I think the one that they last sent me, which I'm not, I'm on the fence every day with this plant, whether it's going to make it. And I have not transplanted it yet. I'm leaving it in the dirt that it came in, because it's not root bound or anything like that. And until it gets past its culture shock of coming from Florida in a box, I'm not going to transplant it. I'm not going to transplant it and send it back into shock until it gets past that point. I'm really not sure yet. Kind of going back and forth whether or not it's going to make it. Matter of fact, I'm going to give it some mist right now. Some stuff's kind of dried out, some stuff's not kind of dried out, but it did come with these puffy little, they look like tuffy little trees, kind of without color, on the top, which I'm coming to find are seeds. So if this one doesn't make it, I may hit you up for the seeds. I may have seeds. That'll be my next thing, is to try and germinate the thing from seeds. Seeds grown in a particular climate tend to do better than stuff grown in other climates and transplanted. I mean, it's not really even supposed to grow in California. I just heard that some people have pulled it off, so I figured, all right, I'm gonna try and grow my own Abre Camino. Worst case scenario, I have another ounce of Abre Camino that costs 25 fucking bucks. But we'll see how that works. Those of you that don't know, it's the primary plant in any magic called road opening. If you're doing a road opening spell of any kind, and you do not have Abre Camino, you do not have road opening. You may be removing obstacles or some sort of Western ceremonial thing, but to do road opening, you must have Abre Camino in some form because it literally means road open. Two more. My kid's wanting something. Is it Xbox stuff he's tripping on?
He wanted me to find a Lego Ninjago game, and I found the movie, and he said he'll try it, but it didn't work. So it's the movie and not the game. I didn't even know he had a game. I just know where the movie is.
Okay. Yeah, he needs to ask me earlier.
And I told him that he's not going to be able to have TV there anyway, because we're going downstairs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's stuff to make me a Bloody Mary and shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, I haven't even done that yet. Yeah, I got to go fix the wife a drink here. Okay, we'll do one more question here. Thanks for all the info, Birch, Mary Part. All right, Shasha. And Sunny, that's me. Oh, Sunny, you are the student in there. Okay, see, you know, when you know people are like 3 different fucking names, that happens. I don't think you're Sunny in my email, are you? I don't think you are. Any advice from your elders you know strengthen your magical abilities? Yeah, most of it. I just had to sit around long enough to figure out what it meant. You know, the craft is heard on the wind and seen in the wild. They like to say little lofty shit like that. Like, as above, so below. You know, they've been saying that since Hermes. It's huge what all those things mean. Even the small little quips of wisdom attached to each herb, like rosemary for remembrance. That's huge what that means. We can even see that in Shakespeare. They use that word. These little things, the one with each plant, told you a lot about the plant, just a little line, but it was up to you to unravel the great mystery of these things upon your path in the craft and figure out what they actually meant. Those two right there are huge. You know, what is heard on the craft is heard on the wind and seen in the wild. If I do not see a magical law reflected in nature, it is not a law. Everything important in witchcraft I should see acting in nature in some other form that is a metaphor for the form that I'm using it in. Heard on the wind is huge. These ideas, these magics we have, they travel on the wind. They travel in electricity. You know, people are gonna complain all day about cultural appropriation. Never gonna help you. These ideas travel through the wind as transmissions, as if our brains were radio transmitters and transceivers, because they are. This explains most psychic stuff going on and all of it. Ideas float around the planet and other people absorb them. And we don't have to like conquer your culture to steal your techniques. They get transmitted. Everybody has them. Before that was a big thing that everybody was talking about, I always marveled at the similarities between witchcrafts and magics all over the world. The idea that indigenous cultures that were in the Amazon, that had no contact with any other culture since the dawn of time, had a ritual space that was a circle marked off by the cardinal points. How many indigenous cultures did that? You can't count that high. How did they come up with those ideas? These traveled on the wind. They were seen in the wild. You will never make your magical system be pure. You will never wrangle it away from your oppressors. And I totally understand. I always say, if you're studying a magic from another culture, give that culture the respect that is due. But as far as having a magical system that is pure, that horse left the gate a long time ago. And the way things really work, there ain't no way you could have ever kept that horse behind the gate, because that horse can fucking fly. Heard on the wind, seen in the wild. As above, so below. As without, so within. As the universe sow the soul. Figure out what those mean. Get back to me in like 30 years. Marry me. Marry Park. Marry me again, yo.